Hello and welcome to Chicory's Maintenance Series. I hadn't planned on doing another video on the engine mounts, but I came across something that I think is unusual enough that you may be interested in it. So all three of the four mounts are complete, and the last one I left because I had seen the bolts kind of at a weird angle and I didn't know exactly what was going on. So now I've uncovered some stuff and I'm going to share it with you. So I'm going to flip the camera around and give you the lowdown on what I am doing. I'll be back in a second. So you can see here the holes for the mount, and I'm going to show you the new mount. It's going to go like this with shims, of course. But one of the things that I noticed is this actually did have the 1/2 inch by 13 thread per inch bolts, and you can see that somebody has put helicoils in the past. So whoever replaced the mounts last time, I don't know what they were doing. I think you can probably see that this isn't at an angle, but I'm going to flip the camera around and put a Sharpie in there so you can see how ridiculous this is. So I'm going to move this around so you can kind of see this way, and I'm going to put a Sharpie in there so you can see how ridiculous that is for an angle. And this one is, I'm going to move around this way. This is tilted back and sideways. It's just such a horrible job. I can't fix this because, sorry about that. If I put this mount on in the same spot, you can see the holes are there. I don't have enough space to re-drill these and make this right, because of course inside this stringer, on top of the stringer there's a steel plate, and then they fiberglassed over it, and this is the fiberglass here. I've recently sanded this because I'm going to show you what my plan is now. So I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, you can see that I have a piece of aluminum that I'm midway through fabricating to install here. And what you're seeing is the blue outline is where the mount will be in the future. And you can see 8 screw bolt holes. So I'm going to drill and tap into that steel plate 8 3/8 by 24 threads per inch countersunk bolts, so it'll be flush with the surface. And then where you see these holes, I'll drill and tap 1/2 inch bolts so that the mount will actually bolt to the aluminum as opposed to bolting where those holes are bad. Now, one of the things you might notice is I've extended this plate further up, and since I'm putting this structure in, I decided that I could put in a future mount for a second alternator. I currently have a 210 amp alternator on the engine, and I have a spare 210 amp alternator, so I can put both of those on with this new mount and have 400 amps of charging capability off the main engine. So that's my plan. I'm going to drill and tap these holes right now, and I will take you along for the ride so you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, so the aluminum plate that's 3/4 inch thick is mounted to the engine bed stringer with 8 bolts, 3/8 24, and now I'm going to align for drilling and tapping the mount, which will mount to the aluminum now that the aluminum is mounted to the stringer. So now I have everything mocked up, and I'm going to draw on the aluminum so that I can drill and tap for the mount, and then I will remove the aluminum and then drill and tap it. Okay, so I'm getting ready for the final assembly, and I just wanted to show you I have the 8 holes drilled and tapped, and then I pulled out the helicoils and cut away a little bit of the fiberglass just so I have clearance holes when the bolts go through the aluminum plate. So now I'm going to assemble the aluminum plate on there, and I will show you everything after I'm done. Okay, so here's the plate in. You can see the bolts, you can see the threaded holes in the aluminum. It goes out to the end. So everything's ready to go together right now. So I'm going to put the mount on and do the final installation. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so it's hard to kind of see what's going on here, but now I'm ready to lift the engine up and then drop it down on the mounts. So I have a power pack with a little scissors, and I have that sitting on the aluminum piece that is sitting on the engine stringer, and it's underneath the part of the engine that I can lift up on. And then once I lift that up, I will take the wood that's underneath the oil pan supporting the engine right now and pull that out, and then I'll be back in a second. So now that I'm done with the engine mounts, it's time to do the alignment of the coupler from the shaft to the engine. And I did some rough measurements right now. It's touching at the top. At the bottom, I've got about 15 thousandths clearance, and I have a little bit more clearance on the starboard side than the port. So I'm going to work on first lifting the tail of the engine so I can close that gap at the bottom, and I'll work left to right because it's not that much of a difference port to starboard, but certainly the horizontal part needs to be adjusted right away. So I'm going to work on that right now, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so I used my power pack and that little scissor ram, and I put that under the back of the engine, and I jacked up the engine now, and what I have is it's pretty much tight at the top and the bottom, and I have a gap on the starboard side, and the port side is tight. So under this first step, what I'm going to do is the back mounts, which are right there, are loose up and down. So I'm going to adjust the height of the back of the engine, and then let the ram out and see where I am. And like I said, I was at 15 thousandths before, and I'm tight now, so that'll be my first move. Be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. I raised the back of the engine. First I lifted it, of course, with the hydraulic ram, got it where it was close, and then I put tension on it on the lifting bolts on the mounts. And where I am right now, you can see this is a little teeny 2/1000ths of an inch feeler gauge, and I can not fit it in there, but if I go all the way around to the bottom, I can just almost get it in, and then at the very bottom I can get it in, and I can't get in a 3/1000ths, so I know that I'm at 2/1000ths now. So I'm going to raise the back of the engine just a teeny bit more to see if I can get it within 1/1000ths of an inch, and I'll be back. Okay, so I did that last raise. I can't fit 2/1000ths anywhere. My actual smallest feeler gauge is, I don't know if you can see that, 15 10/1000ths, which is basically 1.5 thousandths. Oops. And the only thing that I can do is there's one little spot right at the top corner here where I can get just a little bit of the tip in, but it won't go all the way in. So I'm thinking that that's a manufacturing tolerance and not necessarily an alignment issue, but 15 10/1000ths in one little spot I think certainly is acceptable for me. So I'm going to tighten down all the engine mounts, and I would imagine that might move some stuff a little bit. So I may have to come back again and do some stuff. But the engine is sitting on the mounts with its 1,250 pounds or whatever the engine is, and this is aligned pretty damn close. Most people I would say is perfect. And so, like I said, I'm going to tighten the bolts down and see if the engine moves at all from what I'm torquing it around. I'll be back. Okay, so I tightened everything down and torqued everything, and this section that had the 1.5 thousandths gap, that widened to 5 thousandths once I tightened everything down. Now I expected some movement, but I didn't expect that much. So I ended up having to loosen the starboard aft mount and make adjustments, and actually it was quite a bit, but I got this back to where we were, and so I'm very happy with where we are. I'm going to bolt this together, and then I guess that pretty much says that's it for this project. So I'm going to thank you for subscribing, commenting, liking, and of course viewing. And until next time, thanks a lot.